You looking for that picture?
I'm looking for the picture, but I'm also it's funny actually kind of going through it's kind of funny going through old messages here since I never delete them.
How far back do yours go?
So now I'm starting to get into 2020.
Oh my God, mine don't save that long. Is there a setting in there? Because I never delete them either.
Um, here's the thing is I have always saved these from phone to phone to phone.
How do you do that?
Just because I bought the same kind of phone over time, and I just use the, what is it, like the Samsung Transfer or something like that, where you just
Oh
put
yeah.
side by side when you get a new one and it transfers
Yeah.
over. So here it is. This is, I don't have the picture, but I do have, this is going to February of 2020.
Okay.
Okay. Will and I are talking about this when this was his last like normal excursion to a place, right? Because the
Yeah.
COVID thing was going on when he took the family to the Great Wolf Lodge.
Oh.
And if you can remember this from a few years ago, this is when they were talking. This is like the last time before banana protocols went in, and we're having talk about.
Banana.
Yeah, we're already having talks about.
Yeah. So
What?
that's February, huh?
Yeah, we're already having
February what? What's the date on that?
2020.
No, the day.
Oh, February.
Because I know that, like, so my semesters usually don't start until like the third week of January. And I know that we made it at least.
This one's the 27th, so this is
Okay.
at the end of February. But I know they'd made their plans before then,
Right.
and then yeah, and we're already talking about the fucking. We're already talking about the fucking like hoarding going on, and
Did you ever run out of toilet paper?
I came close.
Did you?
Yeah. I had plans to just poop near my shower.
Yeah. Go get yourself a
Like,
litter box.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's around here where February into March, that's when we're talking about how the sports seasons are getting canceled.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, because we were waiting on opening week for baseball. So
Yeah.
they weren't going to go to training camp.
Yeah.
I do remember that now.
So I'm telling
Yeah.
you that the
No, you're
people
right, it was
already
early.
like way bananas about this shit because yeah, then they had to play in the bubble and all this other stuff and yeah.
Oh, that was March Madness, right?
I
It was March Madness, so it was all fucked up. Everybody had to be there that week before. Wasn't it supposed to be in Canada or some bullshit?
it was either that. Well, I know the entire hockey season that year was played in Canada.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that. I do remember the NBA bubble, though.
Yeah, I don't remember how the. I'll ask William about that. I'm sure he'll remember, but yeah, that's. So if you're basing it off of the normal people around you, then yes, I get it. But in terms of how like companies and the governments and all these other guys were reacting and people politicizing it, yeah, that shit was going on way before you assumed they went nuts.
What, in companies?
In companies, the government, and
Yeah.
basically like the bullying and all this other
I
shit.
wonder when they started shutting down the schools. So I don't remember. Because I don't think it really kind of hit me as being real until my daughter had to stay home. So,
I think that's fair, and I think for a
Yeah.
lot of people, that's probably how.
and then like yeah, because I know my school was like, I don't know, like I said, our nursing department was basically convinced that
Fuck, that's hot.
Huh?
That
the coffee is hot. Yeah, it is hot.
Jesus.
So, but I remember them telling me, it's just the flu, blah blah blah. And that was definitely in January when they told me that, because that class I don't teach it in
Right.
fall, I just teach it in spring. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then I do remember getting like really sick, like in February
Uh huh.
of that year, but I don't think I had COVID because I got tested later and I didn't have any antibodies. So I think I just got legit sick.
What I can tell you is, I can tell you that was when I had the discussion because that's when it was after the new year, but barely into it, that I donated my RV to charity. and the guys were talking about how they had it.
What, COVID?
Yeah,
In January?
that's it. Like,
I didn't even think it made it to the United States until January.
no. It was after the new year, but not just a few years in, because I remember that I was trying to use that for a previous tax year.
Oh.
And yeah, those guys were saying that, they had, they all tested positive for it.
In January?
I don't remember if it was January. I can look at the
No, that's okay.
the document, but it was early in the year, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, back to your original point on that, though. Yeah, there is kind of like this fog mirror that, like, pre-COVID and then post-COVID.
Yeah, it's just the before COVID era. Yeah, BCE and CE.
BCE and CE. So, I don't know, man. And, like, I was listening to radio. Hannity was on coming over here. So, he's on KRDO at night, so...
Well, that's fun. You're listening to Hannity, huh?
It's just the radio station that's on. So, that's my Dave Ramsey channel, so
Sure.
he shows up later. And they're doing all the 9/11 commemorations now. So, because, what is that? That's tomorrow, day after tomorrow?
Oh,
So,
well.
yeah. 21 years.
Yeah, 2 days, it looks like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when that was like the
21
defining
years.
thing,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, no, 9/11's old enough to drink, man. So, and so, like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if people, like, I remember where I was when the nation went nuts over COVID and George Floyd. So, unfortunately, it was kind of a rolling disaster. So, it wasn't like a morning where you could, like, it's like, oh, well, I remember exactly where I was on 9/11, because it's, it took 2 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And then everything changed after that. It was funny. I was actually watching this thing the other day. It's kind of interesting. This guy is talking about, Iraq war protests and things like that. And I don't remember any of those, man.
The protests?
I don't remember there being protests and stuff in
Not
town.
here.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, there might be a guy holding a sign somewhere.
Dude. Again, this is the tough thing about this is our quote-unquote George Floyd protests were like 6 dudes downtown.
Yeah. They
right?
were tiny.
So to use that as the gauge of how much of a ruckus this caused is inappropriate. Shit, we're not even...
I just don't remember that many people who actually opposed the war when it was going on. So maybe like 5 years later, when you got guys coming back with like missing limbs and shit, then you started seeing some people, say, we need to get the fuck out of there, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
but like for the first like 2 years, like you remember the first like month of that shit, when they just rolled in there, and then it wasn't even us, it was the fucking Iraqis who tore down all the Saddam Hussein statues and shit. And then and then it was cool for like a year. And then it went weird.
Of course it went weird, because the whole thing was you guys haven't produced WMD #1 as evidence, in justification of this.
Well, I think if like you actually hadn't had, like if the Iranians hadn't sent all their dudes in there, because we can fuck with the Americans now and turn it into a bloodbath that went on for another 5 years or about 8 before it really started to tone down.
Mm-hmm.
If it had actually been pacified in that first year, I don't even think we'd be fucking talking about it. So nobody would say, oh yeah, the WMDs, got lied to, blah, blah, blah. I'd say if Iraq was actually like a pretty stand-up ally and, we hadn't lost 5,000 dudes there.
Right.
I don't think that would be an issue. So I don't think people would point back to that and say, oh.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean, there's any number of ways that could have turned. I mean, I would argue that at some point there would be an inevitability of turning on this on the grounds of getting into something. You got to remember that this wasn't just a war against Iraq. This was, if I recall, this was a declaration of war against the axis of evil.
The axis of evil speech, which is almost just... Did you read that thing I sent you?
I haven't yet. No,
you should fucking read that, man.
I haven't had a chance.
Joe Biden's fucking speech is almost word for word lifted from George W. Bush's axis of evil speech. So that's what that whole article is about, man. It's great.
And why you would frame yourself in such a easily abusable visual motif is just beyond stupid.
Oh, really? What'd he do?
Yeah, have you seen the
I've just read the speech. I haven't seen it.
Christ, just look at the photos of the frame of this where it's the colors are black and red.
like the Galactic Empire.
I'm not kidding you. So much to the point where, Patrick, the CNN took that speech, okay, while it was going on, because it was framed so poorly, adjusted their colors so that the American flag then looked blue and pink because they didn't want it to come across so goddamn imperialistic. But this is the thing is, obviously it was going to run into some kind of loggerheads because ultimately you come across with a declaration that you're committing troops to without some kind of clear I will know when we've won objective.
Oh, you mean Iraq?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, that's the interesting thing about that is that of all the wars that we fought since World War II, we haven't done that once. So, so that's not a flaw. That's a feature.
When it's been going on for 20 years, it's a flaw.
I guess, but now it's over, and we'll probably do it again someday. So,
I guarantee.
Yeah, we'll give it a generational rest here. But
absolutely, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, we haven't done anything like that since World War II. And we said, okay, this is what happens, and this is unconditional surrender. And once you guys do that, we're done. We have not done that since. This is the Korean War is technically still going on.
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. You'd hope that they think about that. I don't know. I don't see us actually getting involved in anything like that again for a while. So there's enough bad. Just bad vibes about it that would probably be cool about it for a while. So,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if staying out of it, I don't know, Patrick. Look, we're currently in the process of funneling billions upon billions of dollars to Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
Nobody has any goddamn sense of where it's going or
they're gonna lose.
It.
They're gonna lose.
In fact, I've heard reports that this is basically one of the greatest money laundering schemes that has ever existed.
Yeah, I've seen some of that too. So where they're basically just
it.
taking the weapons and then reselling them. So I've seen a couple reports of that. I don't know. That thing is definitely a black news hole. You cannot get good information out of that unless you actually go to some really obscure sources. Actually, one of the better ones that's actually been reported is Al Jazeera. So
yeah, they typically are.
Yeah.
And again, like I don't even ask the people I know that have family members and stuff out there, right? I don't even ask them about that because they don't ask about it anymore. No, it's just. So my understanding is those that could get out have gotten out.
Yep.
Those that are still there, I mean, they don't love it. They sort of hate it.
Right.
But they also, at this point, they're like, all right, well, we stay out of this area.
Yep.
And, I still can't answer this. This is going to be one of those, the real answers won't come out of this for 10 years.
Probably not.
Situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see them lasting. And I mean, there's a couple of military podcasts that I pay attention to, and they're all starting to have a little bit of convergence on this line of thinking now.
Yeah.
They're not going to make it through the winter. So, yeah. This is like, they're supposedly doing an offensive right now. But
they are.
It's just
actually.
It's just in the news.
Supposedly it was effective. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means in terms of like how this actually plays out. What I do know is that and obviously I wouldn't dare downplay the struggles that America's going through due to various degrees of ineptitude and problem solving, but my understanding is that those people in Europe right now that are struggling as a result of the cutoffs from Russia are hurting in a way that we can't possibly conceive.
Well, I mean, they're not starving to death.
Well,
so, yeah.
But this is the thing. We are talking about hundreds of % price increases.
Oh, yeah.
And all of the things that come along with this.
Yeah. No, Europe just signed itself up for an enormous recession. So, every economist I listen to is like, yep, that's in the books. So, yeah, and so I don't think it'll actually last that much longer. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic about that too, but I don't know. The guys that I listen to on this one, a couple of them have been pretty spot on so far. So we'll see if that track record holds. But like I said, there's a little bit of convergence in terms of conventional wisdom on that one. So that they're probably not going to make it through the winter. So
I have no idea, Patrick. I'm gonna reiterate this point that this is the primary reason why I've stopped speculating about this, because every single one of my speculations have been so off base.
yeah,
And I just have to wait and see. You know?
yeah, no, and I mean we will find out. So in time, but I don't know. There are things going on over there that that's hot as shit. So that it will just take some time to actually be able to see what's going on, more so than paying attention to what's going on day to day. So I guess I was doing that a little bit in the beginning with that whole thing. Because he thought it was going to be over in like a couple of weeks. So, and now it's been, because that was back in February, wasn't it? So,
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's February. So it's been like almost 7 months now, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
what I do know is that there were a number of Russian government dissidents that were just arrested today.
Oh, really? Where? In Russia?
In Russia, yeah. Basically, we're calling for deposition of authority, and it's like to depose these fucking nuts is sort of the answer to that. And yeah, so I don't know. It's these are issues far beyond my comprehension right now with the limited information that I have.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do have some first-hand information, so
I do,
that's
but
kind of nice.
At the same time, that's again, it's fallen off, right? It's so. This is sort of the misconception about fucking 4D chess and
4D chess.
Yeah, fourth dimensional chess, where people are just like, oh, their moves. They're playing a game of chess beyond your game of chess. And what it all comes down to is who has access to what information. And like, if you're trying to play this game and the rules are constantly changing, or you don't know if the rules actually exist, to sit there and make some kind of accurate prediction on that is, I mean, it's beyond the realm of just like making an intelligent guess. This is like, all right, you're speculating. You might be right.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with speculating as long as you disclose the fact that you're speculating.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, the problem here is, for me, this is one of those few math problems where I have to write the NS no solution, because there's no right. I don't have the information necessary to make a decent.
Well, the information might not even exist at this point.
Quite
in time.
possible.
Yeah, so you don't even know.
Quite possible. Did we introduce the show?
Oh no. How far are we? We're 18 minutes in. Let's make it a record.
All right.
I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
This is Coffee Before Bed. So
you've been listening to 18 minutes.
18 minutes
of unintroduced Coffee Before Bed.
That's okay. The 5 people listen to it. I think they know that happens from time to time.
I think they know us.
Yeah, I think they know. Yeah, they're wise.
Well, what we need to do is we need to encourage them to fight, and that's
encourage who to fight.
So our audience, small but loyal that they are, we need to encourage them to basically pick sides, join the argument, and get in there and comment and say, I disagree with this Jeffrey, he's a jerk. I disagree with this Patrick, he's a real jerk. And basically take sides in the sand. And
well, you and I just don't disagree on that much stuff, so... I mean, we do from time to time, but it's not like this isn't no Hannity and Combs here.
No, well, because you try to be all diplomatic about it. You try to actually like calm these things down, and
it's my nature.
Well, yes, I understand.
Yeah,
but I want to encourage people to.
So you want to build your own PvP server?
No,
Why didn't I? Okay.
no, it's not mine. It's YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So get in there, and if you have umbrage with anything that I say, or anything that Pat says, or anything that my sometimes positive, sometimes really grumbly brother, has to say, get in there and start arguing.
It's been a while since I've seen Will Grumbly.
Well, yeah.
Since his life circumstances changed.
I would
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I mean, without delving into too many details.
No details,
business,
but not our business. But yeah, it's been a little while since I've seen him grumbly.
Well, we all have our moments.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't have too many fights to pick at the moment. I think Joe Biden's speech was dumb. I don't think I can continue to support him. I don't think So the reason why I think his speech is dumb, I actually kind of agree with that dude. I think he wrote that article on that one. That basically he has to make a call. All right, is he gonna move towards the middle? All right, in order to try and make it to the next convention, or is he gonna please the left? And he's gonna please the left.
He went left.
Yeah. So he made his call. So basically guaranteeing that Donald Trump's gonna run. So at this point in time, so
that was a foregone conclusion.
I don't know about that just quite yet. So we still don't know what kind of shoes dropped yet out of this thing in Mar-a-Lago. But that thing has been doused in ice water at the moment very effectively.
Yep.
So it won't have any play at all in the midterm election. So there's your fourth dimensional chess being basically wrecked by a single federal judge.
Rightly so.
Yeah, I suppose so. So, I mean, I didn't see anything in the ruling that, runs against common sense. So, they still said, like, all right, if you guys are concerned about dudes coming in here, and, because one of the arguments the Washington Post was making the other day, was basically that, well, obviously this is a security threat. Okay, so if we got shit like that, shouldn't it be locked up somewhere in the Pentagon rather than some dude's, closet down in fucking Florida? That's much easier to breach if you're a North Korean spy.
Sure.
So, but then she actually did a really cool thing. She was like, no, absolutely. So, if it's national security concerns, yeah, take the documents. It's totally cool. All right. But they go in the box with all the others. So, and if you're a special judge or special master, will actually have to sort through them all. So, which, like I said, that just threw ice water in the entire fucking thing.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're trying to counteract that. And look, I get it. But look, I guess this is going to be where my stance comes in this, and I'm gonna preface this right now. Is everything that I've seen about this is total bullshit. It is completely a partisan move, embarrassingly, because I guess that the first thing I would ask is, all right, so tell me right off the jump that there are no documents being held by any other former presidents, right? And I think you'll find that that's absolutely untrue.
Probably not true. Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, if you want to go ahead and do this, then fine. Then, all right, do this. Go raid Carter's house. Go raid. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. No, I understand that. There's like an imbalance in terms of attention here, but I still need to know who the octopus brain is on this one. Then, I mean, it can't be Joe Biden, man. He doesn't play chess at that level.
Man, it's a fucking idiot. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing left inside that head, man.
No, not really, man. And then I mean, it can't be Merrick. I mean, it could be Merrick Garland, I suppose, but I mean, the guy's just as old as Joe Biden. He's not going anywhere. He already got flushed for a Supreme Court job previously. This is his last job in the federal government. Yeah. So okay. It does him no good.
I understand.
Yeah.
Again,
So
the problem here is just because I don't know who the person is, and look, this is probably just some a team of assholes on Biden's staff that have been making his decisions, right? Because again, like you talked about, I have to make a decision to go left or to go center, right?
Yeah.
And so he decided to pull from the playbook that was so successful last time and say like, well, just a basket of deplorables wasn't enough last time.
Oh man, he could have lifted that word for word. So
instead he said, I'm going to sweep even harder with it.
Yeah.
fucking genius. Yeah, because it works so well. Although I did see
Such a dumb move.
that Hillary Clinton said she is not going to run.
Oh, really?
So I guess I'm going to sit here and, yeah, it's going to take a lot of butter and salt, but I'm going to eat this crow, right?
You don't need to eat that one. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't just trust one article on that one.
She said it herself.
Yeah.
That was supposedly her exact verbiage. So,
yeah. I don't know, man. I was doing some digging on that a little while ago after we talked about that.
yeah.
And I think a lot of it actually is Bill. So, I'll tell you the truth. So, that motherfucker is on thin ice. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he's on really thin ice, man. He's like one more bad Bill Gates divorce away from getting outed, So, that Epstein thing keeps dropping Scooby snacks out there, man. So I'm telling you, that trail is not dead. And if he's trying to run for president, oh my God, that's just basically like ringing the dinner bell for anybody who's got any information out there.
I have no idea what possible justification they could have to not release the client.
I don't know. Yeah.
This is absurd.
Yeah. I have no idea. So I don't even know whose call that is. So I don't know. So I mean, but it is a fucking prize. It is like Hitler's diary, man. Now, out there, if you can find it, man, you are going to be in good shape. So I don't know, but that one, yeah, Bill Clinton like running on the campaign trail with his wife. I don't know, man. That'd be way too tempting of a target. Way too tempting. So,
yeah, this kind of shit right now it's unfortunately it's bringing my piss to a boil right now, which is not where I like to be. But yeah, these are certain, like, I don't know if it's just the exposure or the just blatant miscarriages of justice in my eyes when it comes to the way that these things are being, applied. I mean, I still cannot get behind the massive IRS surge. I cannot see any version of this that is like, what the fuck? What is the point of this?
So I did some reading on that. So, what's your understanding of it?
Help me out here.
Right.
I don't have a great understanding.
So they got a shitload of money. Okay. There are a couple directives within this that are actually increase the number of personnel. Here's how that works, though. And so you remember all the news stories where it's like, oh my God, we're going to have like 80,000 more IRS agents or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not how it's going to work. And then the other thing on it is they didn't get all this money right up front. It's an appropriation over the next 10 years.
All right.
And so they get a little bit more every year for the next 10 years.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, and that's all spread out evenly over those 10 years. And so it's basically like just increasing their budget by a tenth of that, whatever, 40 billion, 80,
Sure.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're allowed to hire up to 8,000 agents a year.
Okay.
That's it. So
You mean that's it?
that's it, man. So I mean, like, and if you actually go and look at like some of the stuff that's put out by the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, they're estimated that the IRS is already understaffed by over 20,000 people, and so they're not even filling the fucking holes that like they've already identified that are there. Now they're filling half of them.
In one year, and then we'll continue.
Yeah, but that requires approval each individual year.
So what I'm saying though is when you're doing this when you're selling it as we're intending to go after the skippers on the wealthy, that does not jive with what you're...
Fuck no.
No, it means that you're looking for people that made a $601 transaction on Venmo.
Yep. That's exactly what they're doing. So, well, I mean, that's parts of it. The other part of it is that, okay, so if I'm a rich guy and I can afford a tax attorney, I can tie down 4 or 5 agents. Okay, so even though there's just one of me, there's 4 or 5 of them, and they're still not going to get that much out of me because I'm not going to break the law, right?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to spend a lot of your time and a lot of my time demonstrating that I'm doing that. All right. So whereas it's much easier to find, hey, look at this guy over here who's never filed a W-2, or a 1040 in the last 4 years. So there's apparently a monstrous backlog of individuals out there who just don't pay taxes at all. So I get it. So, but it's not like they're not going to go out there and hire a fucking like 4 divisions of IRS agents.
No.
Yeah.
You're talking about
So,
yes. So on the surface, yeah, you're like, wow, this just became like the I don't know the fifth branch of the military.
Yeah,
it's just
man,
like
and everybody painted it that way. So, but then all you had to do was go read the fucking bill, and it's like, no, this is a 10-year appropriation. So, first of all, it had all the attrition statistics in there. Okay, so apparently people don't like working for the IRS for very long. They go work for the IRS for a couple years, and then they go work for PricewaterhouseCoopers and make triple. Okay, and so,
Sure.
like, yeah, sure, not only is this, like, trying to plug some of those gaps, it's also taking care of some of that attrition. But like I saw political articles on both sides. Oh yeah, we're gonna go after the rich. Fuck yeah. And then the other side is like, oh my god, they're gonna go after everybody and their dog. And so there'd be a huge bloat in the federal government. Blah blah blah. And unfortunately, neither one of those things are true. That's just not how it's working.
no,
So,
of course. So the answer seems like it lies somewhere in the middle, but
yeah,
unfortunately, I haven't seen too much middle argument from this.
you're not gonna see it.
And I suppose that would have been my job to disseminate and say, all right, so these pieces of truth that come from you, these pieces of truth that come from you, let me go ahead and tie these things together and sort of aggregate this into what actually is the truth.
I don't even think you can find that by reading the 2 different sides,
Fuck
man.
that.
They will not even take a look at it. So it won't sell. So anything that turns down heat doesn't sell. And so,
Yeah.
when you look at it, you say, okay, it's really not that big a deal. And there's a whole bunch of shit in the climate bill, all right, that's fucking sensible, and nobody's talking about it.
Tell me.
There's huge subsidies for new oil and gas in there, man. So that Keystone pipeline, it's in there. They're gonna do it. So how come nobody's waving that flag, man?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. So, nuts.
No, tell me more because I have the politicized version.
What's the politicized version?
What? How do you want me to take?
I don't know, man. I totally wasn't paying attention to it, and then, like I saw one article that, it was basically from a lefty perspective say, oh yeah, it's the climate bill that fucking doesn't do anything, yada yada yada. And I was like, well, that can't be true. It's a pretty large appropriation. Let's go take a look at it. So, you just have to go to their summary website and you can like learn all that shit in 5 minutes.
Well,
So-
all right. So the way that it's presented on these two ends, of course, is when they're talking about like the climate bill stuff. They use this. I'm finding one of the most useless places to get your uses is Yahoo, and I used to.
Oh wait, yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because the way that they would do this and the way that they still do this, I mean, you can go there today, is they'll talk about, let's make a list of Joe Biden's wins, right? And
Did people click on that?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Well, because Yahoo I used to treat Yahoo as, I used to treat it of like my dipstick of the average. Because Yahoo, of all things, right, one thing they used to have before they shut them off for years, now they've started turning them back on, is, believe it or not, Yahoo comments used to be a huge place for discourse.
Oh, really?
Oh, it used to be.
I never knew that.
Oh, it used to be. Like, all the time. They'd post their articles, and you would have, like, mega fights in there, right? And now, again, what they did in the past 2 years, like the COVID years, they turned those off. Right?
They just murdered the
Turn them on. They're on again, and it had a notice on there. It said like, due to the highly polarizing blah blah blah, we've decided to turn off comments on these things, for a while. So they did that for a while. So Yahoo used to be my place where I'd watch in there, and I'd watch the tennis match. Right? I'd sit there and I'd watch the average goons, because Yahoo was a place for Irv, buddy.
Yeah.
And you sit there and watch the little fight go by, and you see, all right, well, this is what you guys are doing. And then the articles started turning into like, well, let's list Joe Biden's wins, and they throw the climate bill in there. It's like, this is, this is the last gasp we have to actually, slow or whatever. I'm like, guys, come on.
Oh my God, no.
And then there's the version of this. Look, what you told me, the information parlayed to me via your father-in-law when it came to the electric vehicle crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that there's the entire state of California is like, guys, I know it's 100 degrees out, but we've got to keep the air conditioners off.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and they're still trying to get rid of their number one. They only have one nuclear plant in all of California, and they keep trying to shut it down. It's crazy. It's insane.
And this is...
And the state still grows like a motherfucker.
It's still... Well,
its economy grows.
Yeah,
economy
grows. And this
is
the tough part, too, is then you look at these situations, you say, like, you guys should be the leading edge of desalinization.
Oh, yeah.
But you're not.
No. You got a lot of coastline out there, yeah.
You do. And you're still, waiting on everybody else's water. But this should be your, like, you should be setting the stage. Why is Saudi Arabia destroying you in terms of actually doing this stuff, right? And so this is where I get. Yeah. Anyway, so that's where like the climate bill is like. Yeah, look at the people who authored this. Look at where they live. Look what they're doing to people. You know.
Well, it's basically like the short version. That's actually probably the most accurate one that I can come up with. It's a giant win for Joe Manchin, who wanted like a basically like he's retiring too.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, no, I'm fucking done after this. And so this is my last chance because if shit flips over this fall, okay, he's gonna lose all his stature or all his leverage. We'll put it that way. And so he saw a once in a lifetime basic opportunity to actually get a piece of legislation that really helps out, things that he's fought for years. And so... And
knowing his restrictions of where he's coming from.
I know.
And being a D in that state.
Yep. So he did right by his guys. That's kind of how this is supposed to work.
Break it down.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of shit in there. So that like, is actually just like really simple, pragmatic bullshit that doesn't make the news. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't do enough to actually reduce carbon emissions in the next 5 years. Otherwise, the world's going to start on fire and never stop, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I get it.
Or it's like, oh, oh my God, look at this, fucking Democrat overspending going on, blah, 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 blah. Again, even though like a third of the bill actually goes back down to debt repayment. So that's in there fucking too. So...
Bro, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, because the entirety of this is, look, I can be as pragmatic as I want, and I can say, like, all right, well, we're supposed to be leading the charge. But I can sit there and say, okay, well, unless the climate bill is taking the totality of the entire U.S. budget, right, and leveling China flat, then our efforts are being actively, countered over 10 times.
Yeah.
Like, we can cut our shit to zero, right? I don't know how that works.
We can go negative, and it doesn't matter.
Sure. So, as far as I'm concerned, like, when you're dealing with a situation where you have a group that is actively, and I do mean actively, despite the fact that, I mean, this is, like, China is the fucking, like, Theranos of countries. Where, like, it would not surprise me to see...
Give me your blood.
No, like, it would not surprise me to actually see them build, like, plywood shapes of, like, hydro plants on top of coal plants.
Yeah.
Right? To say, like, oh, no, we're doing this clean.
Their windmills have motors in them, Jeff.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, yeah. So... When I'm sitting there saying, like, well, what are we doing to do this? Like, it doesn't fucking matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
It turns around to me like, all right, so then what our emphasis needs to be is we need to be working on whatever vacuum or reduction technologies that actually suck this out of the atmosphere. because we cannot just count on our own reductions to make a significant difference.
Nope. No, and like there's so much about like green tech that is so misunderstood. Like solar panels are my favorite example of this.
My brother's got those.
Does he?
Yeah.
Cool. So he put way more carbon in the atmosphere by buying those than he'll ever take out of it.
In a roundabout way, yes.
Huh?
In a roundabout way.
In kind of a roundabout way. I mean, those solar panels were already manufactured when he bought them, so that carbon was already out there.
Right.
But the amount of like to actually blast furnace those silicone down to make those is basically like throwing all the tires in the dump into a furnace, man. So,
dude, I worked with a guy that worked with windmills for a long time.
Yeah.
He told me about the deplorable processes that they
Yeah.
took to build these things.
they're made of fucking fiberglass, man. So, which is about one of the worst substances that you can manufacture.
Christ, man.
Yeah.
So,
So-
like, am I going to sit there and, for my brother's sake, he's right. And if I turn around and say, like, well, take what you got as an incentive to do this, plus the reduction in, cost, for you, that makes perfect sense.
Sure.
If you're doing it in terms of, I was doing this to help the environment, like, okay, well, gotcha. But
Go pick up trash in the park.
if
better.
the turnaround was like, well, it actually reduces my bill, you're a winner.
I know. Yeah.
And I know that's the pragmatism that my brother took. It's like, oh, okay, well, actually, this reduces my cost. Like, sweet.
Well, yeah, as long as you can stay in the house long enough to recoup it, great.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, well, you're a genius. But yeah, in terms of the process of how this is working, like, Jesus Christ.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. So I've been digging into it some more. So just like, I don't know why, but I mean, my undergrad degree, the second one was actually like when all the climate shit was starting to hit.
Oh,
Back in the 90s, where it was getting
yeah.
a big deal, and so we got the IPCC every single year or something like that, and it was like this big fucking deal amongst geography nerds like me.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, but it's like, so I started looking into it a little bit more, because the other thing that I've always been interested in is demography.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, and there's been some really interesting stuff that's been coming out, with the release of the 2020 censuses. So, particularly the one in China. Did you see that?
What's this?
So, the CCP, of course, tried to say that they had more people than what they did. All right.
Oh.
So, but of course, you can get, I mean, the one cool thing about demography is that you're dealing with large numbers. And so you can use very small samples to predict very large numbers with great confidence. Okay. And
I will take your word for it because I don't understand it.
it's easier than you think. All right. But sure. All right.
We have sworn in an expert. We've sworn in an expert to testify here. So please go ahead.
Well, I'll give you a test on this one. So there's 330 million people in the United States.
Okay.
How many people do I have to pull with a perfectly random sample? Okay, perfectly random. So we just do it by social security number. All right.
Okay.
So everybody has a non-zero chance in the United States of actually getting pulled into this, and say there's no non-response. So everybody calls you back.
Okay.
All right. How many people do I need in order to poll America accurately?
Half.
No.
I knew it was going to be either high or low.
Very low. Go way low. Yeah. It's about 3,300. That sounds absurd.
Yeah.
It's not, though, man. It works. The reason why it works, and the reason why pollsters fuck it up all the time, is because they never get a good sample. All right, so you call, all right, and you call, hey, would you like to take a political poll? Most people hang up on you. All right, the people are like, fuck yeah, I'm down for that any day. In fact, you can call me back tomorrow. They're going to be way too into it. So you're going to get a bad sample,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
You got your thumb on the scale.
you got
yeah.
your thumb on the scale, buddy. So, but anyway, with demography, so you can actually, and it's not perfect science, but it's about as good as it gets as far as the social science goes, where it has some predictive value in it. And so the CCP, the Chinese government, released their census numbers, and everybody looked at it, and they were like, no.
Yeah.
And so they actually had to go back in the CCP for like the first time ever on this report, went back and modified their numbers. So Yeah, and they actually reduced them down. And so now, like, all the population, like, projections for China are way, way worse than people thought they were, like, 10 years ago.
Hmm.
So, and of course, we don't have the single child policy. So, and so that's not a thing anymore. But understand that, like, you did for a very long time,
Oh yeah.
and you're not getting any more 30-year-olds in your economy anytime soon. In fact,
Nope.
you're not going to get any more for another 30 years.
As a matter of fact, it
Yeah.
also doesn't matter how many McDonald's vouchers you give out to encourage people to have children,
Mhm.
right? The imbalance is already there. So
Yeah.
this is
Oh, it's horrifying, man. It's so bad. It's so bad.
when they talk about basically the expectations that women have to have men court them. It is like, well, you better have this, this, and this.
You better have at least a house, if not two.
Yeah, it's no version of like, well, I know Ricky comes from a poor family, but he grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, but he's going to be an artist someday.
Well, and
It's not.
And it's so weird because like the age band that you're like considered to be like marryable in China is fucking tiny.
It's
It's like
minuscule.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay, if you get halfway through your 20s and you're not married yet, then obviously you're trash.
Yeah,
So,
you hit,
yeah.
you hit spinster status. And,
Yeah, it's weird, man.
and look, I'm gonna make this statement here. Is all right. Just having age. Let me put it this way, and this is gonna sound gross, but I'm gonna say it anyway. All right. I have nothing.
Gear up the comments.
No, yeah, exactly. Go ahead and argue with me if you're in your 30s, because that's what I'm looking for. This is what I'm going to pick on. Is like, all right. So obviously, when you're talking about the hotness of ladies, right? And I can't put a scientific measure on this, but I'm going to say this: like, all right. So obviously, women in their 20s they're going to be at their peak, right? I'm just going to say
Yeah,
that
okay.
generally speaking, all right. To me, it seems like the late 20s to 30s is kind of like, all right, this is fine, I guess. But I find that there's also like, I don't know what it is, but there's also a turnaround when you start to get to that like late 30s, early 40s era where it's like there's just a different look to it, a different like, instead of trying to look 20. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You turn around, you accept your age, and you go into that kind of look. Like there's a second blooming that happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the whole concept of just being like, well, you're past 25, right? You're bad fruit.
Right, yeah, you've already been wasted up. Yeah.
This,
All used up.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's mind blowing, man. So I didn't know that about China until I've actually had students tell me that. So yeah, going to college because so if you're a woman and you go to college, especially if you're educated outside of China,
Yeah.
I mean you jump way up in terms of like the kind of dude you can get. So it's like going to like the major leagues or something.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of interesting. I actually do have a couple Chinese students now. They're all online because they're trapped.
Okay.
They were not allowed to come back.
Yeah.
Because you can't get a passport out of China anymore. Which is that man. That come on, dude. That's got to be a bad sign.
It's a terrible sign, dog.
Yeah, it's like if we turn all the cut loose all the lifeboats and then go max speed, you might want to be nervous. So, but anyway, back to the climate thing.
Yes.
I can't find too many climate models that actually take demography into account. So they all look like they're going straight up carbon emissions, blah, blah, blah. It's all going to be fucking terrible and shit. But then you sit there and you look at population projections for every continent except for this one in Africa, basically start nosediving in the next 10 years.
Right.
So, and I mean, like the way that the Chinese, like their demography is kind of lining up now. They might have half as many people in China in about 30 years as they do now, which is insane if you think about that. I mean, think about like what that does to like your real estate market, which is already fucked up beyond repair. But like, imagine that if like half the people in this town moved out tomorrow, what would fucking happen? It'd be horrifying.
It would plunge into chaos.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it would plunge into chaos, but like your favorite McDonald's would definitely go out of business. So,
Mine?
well, maybe not. No. Okay. Well, the one over here is definitely cooked then.
Well, that one. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That one should have been mercy killed a long time ago.
Yeah, mercy killed. Yeah.
But-
No honor killing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, okay. Well, no. Again, I will draw this comparison because I've used this in the past, right? Because it's true, and again, this took place over a long period of time, right? Well, not a long period, but probably about the same period of time that this took in the past. I've said this before. What is the single most important workers' event in human history?
Workers event?
Yes, the most empowering workers' event in human history.
I have no idea.
It's the bubonic plague.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is something that a third to a half of all people,
Yeah.
right? And if you're talking about China, half of their population basically falling off, right? You're talking about, well, who actually has the power now? Well, it's who you have the least.
Yeah.
And if you need workers and you don't have workers, then workers have to demand value.
Yeah. They might. I don't know though, man. That one, 30 years is a long arc. That would all be speculation. So exactly
Sure.
what that would actually involve. But I mean, if the numbers are legit, and like I said, I can't find too many climate models that are taking that into consideration. And so, like, all right, how big of a deal is climate change? I'm not quite sure anymore. So
Yeah, you used to be fairly convinced.
I used to be fairly
but-
convinced. Well, I used to know all the science behind it, man.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of missing variables in the models that they build. So, and
Yeah.
that's definitely one of them. The other one that you rarely see is reforestation. So, but if you actually go back to like, the East Coast of Hawaii, or I mean, like Ohio, that area, Michigan, fucking man, there's trees fucking everywhere now, man.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like that 40 years ago. So you can sit there and you can get on like the Google Maps where they actually do the satellite images.
Yeah.
Just in the like last 10 years that we've actually had that. You can see like
I've
there's
seen
huge
that, yeah,
chunks of the
it's-
country that are just like in the South. Like there were parts of it that's just like farmland. Now it's all fucking forest, man. So, it's like, well, that's got to have some play in this one too, But you don't see too many people because most people who, and I saw a podcast on this a while ago where this guy was kind of dragging climate activists. So, because it's like, well, climate change, like, you got to understand that climate change is one of the big reasons so that we can actually lever in order to get people on board with Marxism.
Absolutely right.
And I was like, yeah, you know what? I've been hearing this. You guys bang that same fucking drum now for 30 years.
Uh-huh.
And so, and a lot of the race shit falls under that too. And a
Yes.
lot of the fucking COVID stuff falls under that too.
Yes.
So, and, really when it comes down to it, now that I start to look at it, there's just a whole shitload of people out there who don't want to go to fucking work. So,
And look,
and it's like, fuck that.
no, it's
You got to do something.
It's not just a fuck
Yeah.
that. And look, even the Star Trek Federation, for being as Gene Roddenberry pinko as possible, had the concept of you're taken care of on the grounds that you are either bettering yourself or you're bettering society.
Right, yeah.
They had exactly zero tolerance.
No Kardashians.
Well, basically, I mean, this is like, they talk about like, okay, well, we solve these problems because everybody's working they've done away with materialism, but, at the same time, it's like you have kind of put these people to work, and you have also said, well, since energy is not unlimited, you have transporter credits. So if you're not earning these, this is what I'm talking about. It's like, in that same vein, I know a lot of people were looking at COVID. I told you about this. This is when they started beating the drum of UBI, universal basic income. Let me say it this way, okay? So for as much as I like to pick on the even well-educated sometimes, but completely dweebish. This is what I'm going to do in the zombie apocalypse. Guys that I knew. What I'm telling you is COVID and climate change is the zombie apocalypse for the left, where it's like, this is our opportunity to rebuild the world in our image. Because it's, again, thing. Yeah. Like, fuck you. I'm never going to eat insects. Okay?
No, I'm not
never going to happen.
No.
Never going to happen. Right?
Not going to eat insects. Yeah. So.
I won't.
Yeah. Not going to bike to work. Nope.
No, the only thing I'm going to do is not leave to go to work, which, you know what? Saves even more goddamn energy.
Even better. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's definitely kind of like, I don't know, man. So.
Jesus Christ. Well, let me just get this out here. If there were any form of this where they're saying, like, what can we do as a company, as a left-leaning, like Apple, if I'm going to take a left-leaning company who is actively, their war right now is to get the employees back to work, right?
Yeah.
They are having a huge battle over this, where it is near revolution of, like, the first thing any quote-unquote left-leaning, climate, important, company would say is, any work that can be done from home should be done from home.
Yeah.
Because of all the climate reasons I just talked to you.
Yeah.
But no, when it comes down to it, they're going to be like, well, people play too much fucking Scrabble and hang out with their dog. And,
Yeah.
Obviously they're still getting the production out of them, but they're like.
Yeah. So, then they just come out with a new iPhone. So, like yesterday.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it fucking does nothing. I mean, it's an iPhone.
Oh, I do something for my stock price. I'll have to go look.
Well, that's fine. Look, I can tell you, like, at this point, this is Apple. Like, they can make it smaller and 2 inches thicker, and they'll have a league of people out there to say, like, this is actually the future of design, really.
Yeah. This is retro. It's black and white, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I need to buy the new one.
Right.
And I am only picking on them because their cult is the biggest and noisiest. I am not saying that, like, I can sit there and find you a bunch of fucking Ford and Mopar dweebs and people who are just as loyal to, like, Pringles or whatever, but
I'm a Lay's man. So no, I got you on that, man. So, but like Apple's like, so this is like the thing going back to the socialism thing too, man. We see a lot of people who talk about like, oh well, we have this like European form of socialism. It's like, it's not fucking socialism. All right, that's a capitalist cupcake with socialist frosting. All right, so all those Nordic countries are like that. Germany's like that. France is like that. France is die-hardly capitalist, man.
100%, yeah.
100%, man. Yeah. And that's the same thing that's true with Apple. It's not a fucking cult. It's a business. And a business.
So is Disney. So I know.
Well, Disney backed out on most of that shit, because they were like, you know what? We like more than social justice.
Well,
we like money.
No, they're still leaning into it on certain projects, but
but I guarantee you, those people aren't going to be able to take over that pirate ship, man. So, and Apple's the same way. And so, unfortunately, like, people who they get, I've seen this happen so many times, man. And so I can understand exactly what Tim Cook and all these fuckers in upper management are doing.
Yeah.
So, it's like, how do you get that good job in that you bust ass, you put in your 80 a week, you ignore your kids, you rack up 3 divorces, now you've got the CEO office, and now everybody else who doesn't want that CEO office, because you're not going to get off of it until you get cancer and fucking die. All right.
Yeah.
So doesn't want to come into work and work 70 hours a week like they did before. And you don't like that, because quite honestly, all of management is overhead. And so, if you have a really big, that's one thing that Marx did get right. So management is overhead. And so in order to justify your kingship over this, this fief here, you got to have people clapping for you in the court,
Absolutely, yes. And I have an easier time justifying, like, dukedoms, earls, and baronies in
Yeah.
terms of subdivisions of power and like title than I would, within a company like this, because like at least I could sit there and say, so in some of the companies I've worked with, and you talk about that royalty thing, it is like in some companies I worked with, when the regional manager came in, it's like the motherfucker came in a purple cape.
Right, yeah.
It's like
Descended from heaven.
he came in with a purple cape, and he's holding like a staff with like a jewel on it.
Right, yeah.
That like I don't know if it's ornamental.
It's got something Latin written on
Right.
it. Yeah.
I don't know if it's ornamental or actually does do magic. But when he came in, there was a line around the block twice to kiss this guy's ass.
Oh yeah.
And I understand that because like the regional manager that dude had serious responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like he is sort of responsible for the guys under his thing. So if like something's fucking up right there and he didn't talk to him, it's his ass, right?
Right.
But in terms of like all of the like what do you call that? Like the what are the intermediary
his little counts and
all those little like piss ants that like that wander around.
Yeah. Cut your heart out with a spoon.
Yeah, like those are the first ones that would like jump up and like hop up to him and say like, hey, great to see you. Don't believe what any of these guys tell you, but everything's great, right?
Yeah.
And that dude he came in like people kissing his rings, like he's just extending the.
Yeah, it's so. Those are the exact people that are struggling with this right now, man.
Yeah.
Because if you're a line worker, okay, so there's a lot of jobs, you can't do them online. Those people never bitch about it.
Mm.
It's like, okay, what do you do? It's like, well, I restock shelves, so I can't do that from home. Got it.
And you know what? Those guys usually get taken care of.
Well, they usually do, and quite honestly, like, you and I both worked our fair share of, like, basically blue-collar, mindless gigs.
Sure.
There is something downright fucking charming about them. When you punch out at the end of the day, you don't think about it until you have to be back.
Yep.
It does not follow you around. There's like your schedule is predictable. So, like after a couple of weeks on the job, you kind of know what you're doing, and like as long as they pay you well enough where like it's not irritating, your boss isn't too much of a dick, those are like those forever jobs that you can kind of do while you're building up capital or going to school or, or
Absolutely.
Getting ready for retirement or something like that, man. Those aren't the people who are bitching about it. It's the people that you're talking about, the sheriffs out there who need to get in front of the king, okay? Mm-hmm. Who are trying to herd all the sheep back into the pen.
Yes.
But the sheep are like, well, okay, like all of your, like, all of the stuff that we do here at Apple, all right, in terms of design and stuff, requires a skill set that I can easily take to another company that will let me work from home. And so, they've got a lot of leverage right now.
Yes.
But then, like, I've been reading, I constantly read business lit, all right? So it's kind of part of my job.
All right.
So, yeah, but it's one of those things where, like, right now, the whole thing is all about quiet quitting and why it's bad. Quiet quitting is, have you heard this? Have you seen any of these articles?
And you're talking about every and all things tendered to the Great Resignation, yes?
No, this is new. So the Great Resignation is the thing that was kind of going on over the last year or so where people were like making a lot more money by jumping jobs. That's still true. Okay, so that's the Great Resignation. But this is the idea. Quiet quitting is where you don't put in 110%. You just actually just do your job. And so everybody, like the business lit, there's all these things. They even seen it in the Wall Street Journal a couple of times about how this is some kind of scourge and plague that's going to hold down the American economy.
You lost your gut.
I know, man. You lost your fucking mind. This is called work. We've done it for like, centuries. All right. And so the idea that like I'm going to show up and do extra work, all right, just to impress you so I can move up the chain. Fuck you. Maybe I like my current job. I don't want to impress you because the last thing I want out of you is a goddamn promotion.
Dude, fuck this. Okay, so let me just ask you this, like, straightforward. How many people have you worked with where their best hope in the day, like you talk about what a great day was I didn't get noticed.
Oh yeah, no, that lots of jobs, man.
Yeah.
Lots of jobs, especially if you have a dick for a boss. So it's like, man, I made it through an entire day without having to talk to Lance. So that was great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's like, and like you're gonna see this. Okay, I'm gonna speculate here. All right,
All right.
I'm gonna speculate.
Break it down.
This is actually something that I think I have a little bit of authority to
Okay.
speculate on. You're gonna see a lot of companies scream bloody murder over the next, like, I'd say 4 or 5 years. Okay? Workers are lazy, they don't want to work on time, they don't want to work in overtime, we can't get qualified candidates. This is going to be, and every 6 months to a year, we're going to have some kind of new workplace trend that they're going to blame on Generation Z or millennials or boomers or whatever, and it's all fucking bullshit, all right? But really, when it comes down to it, like, we've done a really good job over the last, like, I'd say 30 years of teaching people to hate work. So, I mean, like, your dad's generation, my dad's generation, work was just something you did, and so
It was an inevitability.
it was an inevitability,
Yeah.
and so you found one that you could tolerate, and then you stuck on that as long as you could. And if you got a chance to move up, sometimes you did, and sometimes you didn't, because it wasn't worth the risk. And then something happened, I'd say about, like, after maybe the tech bubble burst, or right around 9/11. So maybe it was, like, right around 9/11, okay, because you had, like that whole thing, like, I think I'm going to blame all of this on fucking Fight Club. Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, our generation doesn't have anything to do, and lo and behold, 2 years later, you're going to be fucking slinging grenades in Iraq, and nobody knew it at the time. But anyway, but they taught you to hate fucking work, and that you're useless if you have to work some kind of menial job like this, and you're wasting your potential. You should do something that you're passionate about. You should try and do something that makes the world a better place. Yada yada yada. That's all fucking horseshit. You should find a job that you can tolerate, stack cash, and then get out when you can. So, I mean, like, don't make work the center of your life. But I've been listening to podcasts for years, or reading books even back in the day. It was all about, make sure you do something. Like the old saying, if you do something that you like to do, you never work another day in your life.
That's the biggest lie.
It's the biggest lie that's out there, man.
That's the biggest lie in human history.
Yeah, I tell my students that all the time, and sometimes they look at me like, what? And it's like, no, that's actually true. Yeah. So you should find something where you get paid well for what you do. So
I would argue, all right, so so I agree with you and I disagree with you.
Okay.
Right? I like a lot of what you're saying, and part number one is you blame Fight Club, okay? And I understand that. I blame Point Break. And here's the thing is, which predates it, but that's the one that sort of actually made sense to me the first time, is when Patrick Swayze says, look at them driving in there, and when he called them metal coffins.
Metal coffins.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was the first part where he said, I'm breaking the order because this is what living is all about.
Right.
Now, again, that's fine.
That's a good callback, man.
No,
I will not fight you on that one.
Well, no. And the what I can say is, the revolution did not come. So obviously this is, and the whole thing of like, I guess Project Mayhem didn't actually, change the world either. But I guess the take on this, and again, I'm not saying this, there has always been before I get into this, and I'm going to get into this, I want to ask you about that giving 110% shit.
Sure.
Okay. You and I have been working for a long time.
Yeah.
What percentage of the people that you've worked with actually gave 110% all the time? I can name a few.
All the time? Yeah, very few.
I can name a few.
Less than 5%.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Less than 5%.
Less than 5%.
And a lot of those guys were just like Mormons.
Yeah, they were Mormons. I'm specifically thinking of two. So who were brothers who were amazing. But at the same point in time, like, there's been a couple other places where I worked where I've seen people give like 110% because they were actually like, they were pushing so hard to get out of their current situation. Yeah. Whether and that would come in a couple different flavors. So it'd be like, number one, I want to get promoted. All right, that was probably the most common. Number two is be like, I'm going through a divorce. I need the money. You know?
Yes.
And so I'd see that one too. But then like the third one, you know, just the Mormon thing where that's just kind of like default.
Yes.
That's pretty rare. So,
Well, yeah, because you get to that other side where it's like, well, why does this person give 110%? It's like, what's wrong with it? It's like, oh, no. It pleases his God.
it pleases this guy.
Right? And so I understand. Yeah, and
So he's got a tithe.
no, look,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, like, those people that were in service of Kali Ma, like, they gave 110%,
Yeah,
right? Because they're going to get the fucking heart pulled out. So,
And flambéed. You know?
like, you do that, like, if that's, like, your team building exercise.
Team building exercise.
Then,
Kalima.
then, yeah, you come out there, it's like, you know what, I haven't been working hard enough. That's fine. It's like, I used to go, because they used to bring, like, free sandwiches.
That's
yeah,
where you
then they
don't want to
started-
get noticed at work.
Yeah, yeah. And they're like, yeah, they're doing the hard thing again. All right, that's cool. I better step it up. But like, so the whole concept of like, I can't believe my guys aren't giving 110% is total bullshit. That is the same.
Yeah.
That is the same
Yeah.
fallacy of all those teachers I worked with. Where it was like, these students are lazy. When I was a kid, you went to honors classes just like I did. You wouldn't
Yeah.
be here if you didn't.
Right.
You hung out with the smart kids.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me take you to the other classes that you weren't in.
Right.
Okay. And that kid shoving batteries up his nose. That kid's like, that's fire.
That's a fire. That's an
Okay.
actual open fire.
Right.
Yeah.
As soon as the teacher in this class walked out,
Yeah.
a professional boxing match broke out,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
ended before the teacher came back.
Right.
You're pretending this didn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. You weren't part of that culture. So as far as that work group goes, yeah, you never had a whole ton of 110%ers,
Yeah.
right? And if you did, look, I got 110% out of some employees for the first 2.5 weeks, month, 3
Yeah.
months they came in.
Yeah.
And as soon as they settled in, they're like, okay, well, I'm not a new employee anymore. The
Right.
luster has worn off.
Honeymoon's over.
And so the argument that I've been making here is each and every person needs to understand and learn their effort matrix.
Sure.
Right? So if you are a person that is completely driven, you're like, look, I want to put that 100% drive in to get to here. It's like, great, okay?
Yeah.
And that's fine because you are like this and you're going to find your intersection where that pays off. For you, for other people, it's like, well, what's the amount of effort you want to put in? What is the most you can earn with that effort that you're
Yep.
going to put in?
I'm going to work the supply side.
That's the job you
Yeah.
want to work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing, and the way I break it down is there are two types of jobs on this, right? One is, and these were the kind of ones that I liked the best, was there are jobs where there's an in pile when you start and an out pile when you're done,
Yeah.
and there's that much work to be done.
Oh,
in
those
the
are my
day.
favorite. Those are my favorite.
Then there is the job where there's work to be done at the beginning, and the same amount of work will be done at the end,
Yeah.
and you will be in process, right?
Yeah.
And those are the two things. Which one do you want to do,
Yeah.
right?
No, I don't mind either of those really. So I do prefer the former, but
Well,
I've had some pretty good ones in the latter category too, where it's just punch clock, man. And so you get there, you go through the motions, you know, like, okay, the day's going to be over in 4 hours, and that's so predictable. You know, that's so nice sometimes.
Well, I get that, and look, I'm speaking experience where like the people we're calling at 8 in the morning, they're still calling at 4 when
Yeah,
you leave,
yeah.
right? That's sort of the version of hell that I can't go back to. But
Yeah.
for me, I will tell you, when did I give 110%? Well, with those jobs with this much amount of work to be done at the beginning,
Yeah.
I gave you 110% at the beginning so I could pound it out as fast as I could and then fuck around for the last 4 hours
Yep.
of my shift,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Oh yeah. That was one thing that I really liked about warehousing, because it was like that. The shipment would come in, we'd break it down, we'd bust it, we'd cattle, we'd bin it, we'd receive it, and then it was like, okay, all right, anything else going on tonight? Then there was just like steady parts requests and stuff like that. So but that could be handled by one or two guys, and so Like, if it was your night to fuck around after we got all that work done, boom, we'll punch you out. And so, yeah, we'll still pay you, but go home, man. We don't need you.
Yeah, and also it gave you leeway where if, say, something crazy did come up, you could handle that instead of being the fuck stick on the next shift. It's like, hey, we didn't have time to oh, and you're passing it off on me. Okay.
No.
Thanks. Will can tell you horror stories about this. But
No, okay, I've worked in places like that too. So where it's like just pass around the hot potato, man. So you know, but there are like, I don't know, man, like the whole thing behind hustle culture and stuff like that. It's all deeply rooted in this like real antipathy towards work. So just this idea that work is actually, you know, some kind of bad thing that you just have to do in order to kind of get through your day. But really, you know, like, you're going to get burned up on something in your life, man. So you should make it count, you know? And so, like, I mean, my dad, he did 35 years with the same fucking company. All right? So, I mean, there's some quiet dignity in that. So even if what he did wasn't terribly dignified, you know? So, but really, when it comes down to it, like, I mean, if you sit down and, like, pencil in his majors on the back of his baseball card, you can just show, like, oh, he played for the same team for his entire life. That's fucking cool. You know? And so, I mean, that's just going to happen. So,
well, I would say that the first step towards relieving any of that kind of stress, right, is, and I guess I took this perspective a long time ago. Not forever ago, but enough to the point where I can see where it changed. Is step number one towards relieving like work-related stress is to, number one, not look down on anybody's job.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. No. Is the people who feel the most stress on status is like, well, I don't want to flip burgers. Like, well, it's fine
work.
Yeah. Like, you know, you turn around. Obviously, I'm not going to build it up, but I'm like, look, that dude works for like 8 hours, right? As of right now, he's making more an hour than most of us.
Yeah, right.
And on top of that, and on top of that,
true.
like, he gets to make a lunch for himself. That's fine. So he just ate for free. And on top of that, I guarantee you, at the end of the day, he's taking home a care package of like 6 Big Macs and a whole bunch of other things like home.
Yeah.
I'm like. And the same thing is like, I'm not going to pick on dudes that are, you know, sweeping floors. It's like, no, this is all work. Work is work.
Work is work.
None of this works without the rest of us. There are some people where it's like, well, it wouldn't work without him. It's like, probably not.
Yeah.
But that also means that it doesn't work with 12 of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a... Okay, I noticed that amongst, like, my students. There is kind of a snobbishness.
Of course.
You know, and it's I'm not going to say it's necessarily confined to the young. I'd say it's more common.
Look, and there are plenty of old people that are like, do my parents usually want to flip burgers for the rest of your life? I'm like, well, no.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it now.
But, like, all of those are better than unemployment. So, you know, idleness was always seen as, like, the thing. Like, in my family, that was the thing that you're not allowed to do that. You can go flip burgers, but you can't do that.
Well, this is the same as like you're either going to work or go to school.
Yeah. I guess I didn't have a mutually exclusive choice.
Well, no. You know, nor did I. But you know, there are a lot of families that was their their take on it. You're working to go to school to live here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I guess that was true. So, but.
You want to be unemployed in your own apartment, which I don't know how you're paying it, but, you know.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. I just see a lot of people who are really trying to wiggle out of that, you know? And, I mean, like, you got to get out of work if you have assets. So that's the trick. So if you have assets behind you, then, you don't have to work. So
that's the fine line between unemployment and retirement.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the only difference between the two is that one, you have assets. You know, and... I see so many people just try and speed run it as fast as they can, and it's like, man, work largely defined me, who I am, in certain, you know, in major like realms of my personality are based upon the fact that I started working when I was 14.
Certainly.
Yeah. You know, and so like
I wasn't that far behind you.
No, you weren't, man.
Actually, William was in that same crowd too. I think he He got the Doherty High School workers permit.
So, yeah, to go
And I
work
think
at
you had to
at the
too.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, actually, Bob, I didn't have a driver's license yet. I gave him my work permit. So,
Right.
but he was oh God, I remember Bob, man. He's a cool dude. So
Oh,
yeah, but anyway, there were just like I'd say like the last 10 years since the financial crash or so, and a lot of people did get legitimately screwed at that point in time. But I remember the job market being shitty for like 2 years after that.
sure.
Yeah, because I remember having good students who were struggling finding jobs, and then like I remember this one guy. I think he might have. Well, I wasn't teaching graduate school back then, so he must have been at the community college and then went on somewhere. But I remember seeing him on like LinkedIn, and he had an MBA, and he was working at Domino's. And I was like, man, that's rough, bro. So, and he's like, hey, man, I got to put food on the table. So, I was like, I'm not going to knock it. So, I mean, he went on to better things, of course, when the economy picked back up. But it was right around there where you started getting all these people who were like, okay, how do you actually stitch together 3 or 4 different lines of income?
Sure.
And how do you actually get out of this? This is where Airbnb became a thing, or going, in with other people on a house and stuff like that. The big house flipping thing, came back with a vengeance. So at that time, and so, but all of it really was just like, it was like, man, just go get a job that you don't fucking hate, You're gonna be just as good in the long run as you trying to dance through all that other bullshit, man. And I've seen so many students try to do that over the years, where they don't have the assets to actually be able to, do those things, and then they get crushed by it down the road.
Well, again, I mean, this is, and again, I'm not going to sit there and just say this is a generational, like this generation, like every generation goes through
Sure,
this,
yeah.
right? It's the same thing. Like if you poll any number of like 13-year-olds right now and say, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Oh, they all want to be YouTubers.
Yeah, exactly. You say like, okay, so, and I'm not going to sit there and be the guy that pisses on their dream or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I got you. It's just like, and I don't want to sit there and say that it's impossible or anything, because it's not. But at the same time, it's like, well, which YouTuber do you want to be?
Yeah.
Right?
How much clothes are you going to wear?
Well, I don't mean it like that. I mean like, okay, so there's a group. It's not a huge group, but there's a group of people that scratch out a decent living via doing this. And a lot of that is going to be through different kinds of help. So you're going to have, like, remember, you're not just going to go out there and you're going to go on YouTube and it's like, all right, well, via my YouTube bucks, right, I can buy all the things I want. It's like, well, okay, well, there's that. But that's actually just how you get your name out there.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to start your Patreon begathon, and you're going to have to throw that out and read out names at the end of every...
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, I get it. So when you say a YouTuber, you're talking about Mr. $26 million a year.
Yeah, you're talking about, so those guys who make the 12-minute long videos.
I get it. And I know that's who you think that you are. Because, look, that's the same attitude that a lot of people will talk about. It's like, well, I'm going to be a football player. It's like, okay, got it. Are you special teams, or are you saying that you're quarterback, right? And everybody wants to be quarterback. And
right.
That's what I'm saying.
Practice team.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not holding that against the current generation, because it's just their version of that.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing.
Every single thing has been like that, and there's the only issue I have with this, right? The only issue I have with this is the absolute dogshit, stupid reasoning behind this of like, the worst thing that people can say is like, well, you can do this. You can do anything by just believing in yourself. Like, no,
that doesn't work. Yeah.
Okay, that's the worst possible thing that you can tell somebody is like, believe in yourself or just be yourself. Like, do people love you now?
Right.
Are you being yourself right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. are you rich and powerful? So is it working? Okay, no. Then we need to develop an action plan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the starry-eyed vision, you know. So the whole idea that, like, you know, the Gretzky rule, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. There is truth behind that, but, you know, there's also, like, you have to get to this point where someone's just, like, got to sit you down and say, like, all right, kid, it ain't gonna happen, you know? So what's your backup plan, you know? And then there's this whole, like, pat on the back and, you know, take a knee and let's have a little, like, chat over this and then get back out there and fight, kid. You know, kind of ethos that's been going on for a long time. Just, it's so detrimental, man. I see so many people get beat up by that later on. And it's just like, okay, I get it that there's this vision that anybody can be anything that they want to be. You know, and I mean that, like, I could get on a 20-minute rant about the schools and why this is so fucked up in the schools.
I agree.
Yeah, but you know, I'm not gonna do that just because